So my kids hate it when they get mentioned in a talk, but they're not here. So if they came more, I might have more discretion. But Shoshana, my 14-year-old, recently got me onto Be Real. So I don't know if you know this app, this Be Real app. The basic idea is that with your network of friends, at any given moment of the day, you're supposed to take a picture of whatever you're doing at that moment. And it randomly tells you what time that is. So literally, it is a snapshot into your friend's day. The time varies, so sometimes it might be 10 a.m., and the next day is 5 p.m. I see friends of my kids in the library studying. Gold stars to them. Others are having lunch. Friends are watching TV with their dog on the couch, and others eating spaghetti and meatballs at that exact moment. The app takes a picture of whatever is in front of you as you're holding your phone, so whatever is this way, and then it also takes a picture of you here in that selfie way that we do in this day and age. So you can look beyond your network and also see what's happening with people on the app all around the world. It's a fun thing to do, to see what's happening with other people. So this week, my phone buzzed at 8:15 p.m. and I was here at shul in Minyan. So I posted my picture, the siddur in front of me with me. That is what I happened to be doing at that moment. I was praying. I like praying. My kids joke with me that is such a rabbi thing to say, but I think it's actually the reverse. I like being a rabbi because it focuses me on doing such human things, not just rabbi things. Praying is not a rabbi thing, it's a human thing. In order to explain more, first, let's talk about two types of praying. And I know there are many, many more categories that you could make. But for ease, let's first just create the two largest buckets or categories, which is formal and informal prayer. Formal prayer is what we are doing for most of this morning. Religion has formalized prayers and moments of prayers. We excel at this within Judaism. We set time for prayer, words to say in liturgy which become bound, and we call them the siddur, the prayer book. Prayer and services have a flow and an order to them. These formal moments tie us to something really important. When we hold the prayer book, we are holding a compilation of words gathered over thousands of years. From verses in the Torah, like the Shema, to the mourner's Kaddish from the 2nd century, to the first Siddur, which is from the earliest part of the 9th century, or the prayer for Israel, which is the most modern part of the prayer book. Holding the prayer book can be seen as a collection of prayers and hopes and concerns and values across time. And of course, we are singing the words of the Siddur to melodies which might have been composed as recently as last week. From Torah times to our own time, seeing the experience of the prayer book as relevant and current can be hard for many people. Too often the prayer book is simply laid before us and we're expected to understand what it is in all of its layers. Yeah, I know that the English is right there, and there are extensive notes on the margins and beautiful meditations offered on the themes of the prayers, but the formality of the service doesn't seem to invite us into reading them or learning from them. We see that when we're here, that we're sort of locked into a flow that often is uncomfortable for us, rather than feeling permission to explore and to be curious about these words that we're supposed to know. So know that you are invited, first of all. You are invited. Read the English, practice your Hebrew, let your mind wander with the margin thoughts or the terrific essays in the back of the Chumash, and if needed, you have my permission. So joining in the formal prayer service has layers of history and experiences. I'll call the second category informal prayer. This is the category separate from the structures of the prayer book and sanctuaries and formulaic Hebrew words. Informal prayer are the moments in between. Some people call this spontaneous prayer. It's funny because I think we are innately tuned into this mode, but modern Jewish practices have trained it out of us. Meaning we have become so focused on the words of the Siddur, we have stunted the practice of spontaneous prayer. I was confronted with this years ago when I was in rabbinical school doing a rotation in a hospital. And as a chaplain, I visited any patient and their families regardless of their religion. So when a non-Jewish patient asked me to pray with them, the Mishaberach seemed okay, but not really fitting the moment for their tradition. So I learned from my Christian chaplains and my dogged supervisor to lean into the experience of spontaneous prayer, prayer of the moment, prayer which reflected the emotions and joys and fears of the moment, prayer not restricted by the printed pages, but coming from the heart. Many people talk about this. This is the prayer when you're out on a hike at the top of a mountain and you see a view. Whatever bubbles forth, that's the kind of prayer that I'm talking about. It feels very different than the Siddur in the sanctuary. In 1 Samuel, spontaneous prayer is what Hannah offered as she prayed for a child. And then, as often is the case now, Hannah's prayer was wholly misunderstood by the professional religious person, the priest Eli. Unfortunately, we have been led to believe that this type of prayer isn't legitimate or has a place within Judaism. I think that we are worse off for that. It is incorrect. Spontaneous prayer, authentic prayer, is the height of it. So actually in this week's Parsha, the very first reading, it says, Jacob left Beersheba and set out to Haran. He came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. That is this scene over here that we talked about. This is the story presented on the beautiful tapestry that I mentioned before. And Jacob names that place Bethel. So we have a special connection to this reading, but it's easy to focus on the dramatic stories of the ladder and the angels and tricked marriages. But the rabbis ask, well, what was Jacob doing when he stopped for the night? There's a midrash which says that the sun had set earlier than normal so that Jacob would stop in that exact spot. Well, Rashi teaches that Jacob stopped there to pray the evening prayers. Part of Rashi's comment to the verse is, thus we may learn that Jacob originated the custom of evening prayer, the Mariv prayer. Scripture purposely changed the usual word, Rashi says, for praying, not writing yitpalel, and he prayed, which would have been the more appropriate word, but instead it says vayifka, which means to hit upon a place unexpectedly. So my moment on Be Real this week was started by Jacob in the Parsha when he found himself in a certain place at a particular time to pray. But why do I like praying in formal and informal modes? So let me share a few reasons. One is prayer reminds me of our highest ideals. Think about this. As you look at the prayer book for the rest of this morning's service or the next time you open a Siddur, ask yourself, why is this prayer here? What is the value or the ethic it is trying to express? How is that important for me to remember? And how do I enact it? I need reminders for offering gratitude and seeking forgiveness and extending generosity and being humble. These are daily reminders of being our best selves. And let's be honest, life is busy, and we're not always our best self. At least I'm not always my best self. Prayer is about striving to be our best self. The second is that praying means being part of a community. Being part of a minyan is being part of a community. We might be helping others who have experienced a loss, of course, saying the mourner's Kaddish. But we can also offer prayers for those who are sick. And we are just doing a good thing for ourselves and for the community when we show up to minyan. For anyone who's looking for an easy way to meet other people, just show up at minyan and you'll meet a few other people. And they will introduce you to others. And if you come in the morning, you can enjoy a cup of coffee and breakfast too. 7:30 weekday, 7:30 weekday mornings, 8 p.m. at night. Both are on Zoom too, so all you have to do is to click to join. And finally, but not at all the end of this conversation, I want us to continue to, not the end of the conversation I want us to continue to have, is that for me, finding prayer grounds me. Did you know that in the Amidah weekdays, there's a special paragraph to offer your own prayers for someone who is ill? I found these quiet moments to offer my own prayers to be grounding and meaningful when my friend or family member is going through something. It is a time I carve out intentionally to sit with my own feelings, to process things, and to offer my highest hopes towards loved ones who are sick or struggling. In the busyness of my day, I need the discipline to occasionally pause for 15, 20 minutes and just to think about what's happening in my life. I've not touched on the many barriers that there seem to be to minyan. Understanding the Hebrew, the choreography of the service is strange to many when we sit, when we stand. The perception that praying is for other people. That's what other people do. And the sense that just because of all of this, I'm just bored in services. That's a reality too. All of those things are real and feed into our sense that coming to minyan just isn't necessary. But let me be clear, it is necessary. We do need you to come to minyan. We do need you to come on a morning or an evening or on a Shabbos, that your absence is felt. So pick one night, one morning in a month, and to come in the morning or to come in the evening. Join on Zoom, join in person. We are a large congregation, and I'm being clear. We need your help, and I think each of us can also benefit from this as well. It is for someone else, and it is for ourselves. So we need your participation. I want to close in an unexpected direction. So Mahalia Jackson, and I will not be singing because you have heard me before. But I love this song that Mahalia Jackson sings, the incredible gospel singer. She has a song, Prayer Changes Things. You should totally Google it to listen to it. And one of the things I love about it is that while she suggests that it is God's intervention that changes things, she actually never says that in the lyrics. She says that it is the act of praying that causes change. It is something about the act of praying that changes things. The parts of the lyrics say, yea, do you know? No, prayer changes things. Do you know God, child? Prayer changes things. I've been out on the stormy, raging sea. Lord, lifted me. Yea, I've been hungry, I've been sick, I've been filled with misery, but along came God, I'll say. She says Jesus. I'll tell the world God rescued me. One thing I know, yes, I know, prayer changes things. God knows. You know prayer gives you strength when you're fallen, and it'll unlock doors that have been closed so long in your face. Oh, and it will raise a friend when you feel friendless, my Lord, and it will drive all your doubts and fears away, oh Lord. Yes, the world may crush you, but you don't have to fret. My God remembers when others forget. Yes, one thing I know, yes, I surely know, prayer changes things. And I agree with that. The act of praying changes me. I don't know if it changes God. I don't think that I have the power to force God to do something different than whatever God is going to do. But it absolutely changes my perspective. It reminds me of being my best self, and it brings me into community. So Jacob was right to stop for the night. It was by taking a moment of stopping and praying that he discovered insights. God was in this place and he didn't know it. And so like Jacob, come to Bethel. Come to pray, to be supported, and to change things. And I'll be looking for your Be Real post. Shabbat Shalom.